Looking to up your bourbon game? Larceny Wheated Bourbon is the key. It's an award-winning small batch bourbon made with more wheat for a smoother taste. Get caught in the act. Larceny Wheated Bourbon, Bardstown, Kentucky. 46% alcohol by volume. Think wisely, drink wisely.
With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of getting 2 W's on the road or catching the home run ball without spilling your drink. Double boom. Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
Our new presenting sponsor is ZipRecruiter. Are you looking for a smarter way to hire great candidates? With ZipRecruiter, 80% of employers who post a job get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. Try it for free.
Tell me more.
ZipRecruiter.com/06010. That's ZipRecruiter.com/06010. Absolutely abysmal pick in the end zone. Just terrible.
That was the quackiest duck I've ever seen.
You're in the 06010. Never gonna hustle in case you didn't know. Matthew Berry, TMR.
You guys go ahead, give me grief for being on SportsCenter for 45 seconds.
I think you could do better than me because I don't think you could.
Jailbait, Field Yates.
You're terrible at hashtag improv. At Field Yates. At Field Yates.
Stephania Bell.
Oh, don't let Barry convert you.
Secret Squirrel, Daniel Dodd.
Make it happen.
Mediocre fantasy advice.
You're older than people realize.
That never stops.
Loyal 06010 listener.
Welcome into the Friday edition of the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast. We're going to get you ready for the playoffs. We have made it.
Playoffs?
Trying to win a game.
That might actually be the one impersonation you're good at.
That was pretty good.
In 10 years.
Playoffs?
I think we found the one.
It's all right.
That, of course, the infamous Jim Mora rant back when he was the Colts head coach, and a question about the playoffs after, I think, a disappointing loss by his team, and he obviously took that question to task, scoffing at the notion of the playoffs. But good morning, Matthew Berry, and welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Good to have you back, and Stephania, good morning to you.
Good morning, Phil.
Oh, Stephania's here?
Yeah. Oh,
that's right. Oh, hi. Fania. Now, a lot of people. So let me just take you behind the scenes here, if I may, if I can just sort of like,
peel back the curtain.
Peel back the curtain. Thank you, Stephania. Yeah. So anyway, we have a pre-show meeting. So we do it from 8 to 9, from 7:30 to 8 a.m. Like it's an early meeting, right? But from 7:30 to 8 a.m. It's literally just a half hour. And then from 8 to 9, and sometimes we go a little bit past 9. From 8 to 9, we tape the podcast every single morning, Monday through Friday. That's the schedule. 7:30 to 8, we do a pre-show meeting. But Stephania not here at the pre-show meeting, and you're like, well, where was Stephania? Like it's only a half hour out of the day, right? It's and the Friday show is a big show. The Friday show is a big show because it is two things. Number one is we cover every single game. So it's a long show. It's like an hour and 15. And to be honest, Field, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like of all the shows we do, Friday is probably the most crucial Stephania show because, we want to know who's going to be playing, who should we be worried about, what are the injury updates. This is the show where Stephania has the most information prior to Sunday morning.
I sort of feel like Stephania is valuable every day, but I understand what you're trying to say.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but she's probably most valuable today. Like this is a big Stephania show. Fridays are, even back in the day before she was on the show every single week, every single day, Friday she was always on Friday.
We're riding coattails on Fridays.
100%. I'm just here for the here for the cookies.
For the gags.
Yeah.
Just here to a little ha-ha, little chuckle, little smile, little tickle your fancy. That's what I do on Fridays. Ooh. So anyway, but I look up all of a sudden in the middle of the meeting and where's Stephania? And Secret Squirrel goes, she had to leave. And I look up on the screen and I say, oh, that's why she had to leave. She was on Golic and Wingo.
Yeah, very nice. How'd it go,
Not very
Stephania?
nice. What do you, like, we literally, Golic and Wingo are from 6 to 10 a.m. It's a 4-hour show. And the only time that you could go on it was during our pre-show meeting.
You know why?
Why is that?
Because I went on during the most watched portion of that show.
Oh. Yeah, I mean.
That's why the time.
Field Yates has been a regular on Mike and Mike.
Yates is a staple
and Golic and Wingo.
Show.
He's
Make
a
no
staple.
Mistake.
They love Field Yates. And you know what Field Yates does? Field Yates goes on before the pre-show meeting. Field Yates, the consummate
that's
professional.
He's on so often. I'm just trying to ride Field Yates' coattails in the Golic and Wingo show.
Yeah, well, if you want to ride his coattails, maybe choose a time period when you're not otherwise busy.
I'm not such a big star that I can choose my time period.
Interesting. I don't go on that show during
That's because,
they don't ask me. I mean,
you asked them to go on your TV show instead, Matthew.
Yeah,
so enough about
no, I mean, like, whatever.
Exactly.
It's
you
fine.
only have your own show with the staff and minions and help and things like that.
I have a talking robot that wants to kill me on that show. That's what I have. But the fact of the matter, Star, thank you, Star Fania.
That robot sounds a lot like Wingo.
It's just a coincidence. Anyway, it's a pleasure, Stephania. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us on the podcast.
It's a busy week here at ESPN. It is the last day of Jimmy V Week. So join ESPN and the V Foundation in the fight against cancer, something that unfortunately all of us are all too familiar with. Visit v.org/donate, and all donations benefit the V Foundation for Cancer Research. However,
all donate. I think that's an important point. All donations, 100%. So many charities use some of the money they raise for overhead, for staff salaries, for promotion, to print up flyers that they send you in the mail. Like, and no disrespect to any other charity, but 100% of the money you give to the Jimmy V Foundation goes towards cancer research. Everything else, the money for the flyers, for staff salaries, all that stuff, that comes out of a separate fund, and so is not part of what you donate. So I think that's an important point to make.
There are other ways to donate, or that you can donate the V Foundation, to benefit the V Foundation. Of course, runfieldrun.com. We told you guys about this extensively.
Where are we at? Where the goal is $30,000, Field Yates. Where are we currently at on runfieldrun.com, supporting you and Chapin running in the Boston Marathon this spring?
$25,836.20. That will be 86% of the way to our goal for this year. We've had so many kind and thoughtful and generous donations. And again, it's not the amount, it's just the thought and the donation itself that really makes us most proud to be running this race. So
everyone can afford different amounts, but I will say this. When Field looks through the scroll of who's donated what, he gives a little bit bigger of a nod the more you give. I'm just saying, like, if you want his smile to be a little bit bigger, if you want Chapin's heart to feel a little bit more towards you, I'm just saying you dig deep into the pockets there. A couple other ways to donate, if you've already donated to runfieldrun.com, or if you just don't like them, which I completely understand. I get that as well. There's got to be at least one person in this world that doesn't like you guys. I haven't met them yet, but there's got to be at least one. There's got to be at least one. Both of you people are very, very lovely. So over at fantasylife.com, 50% of our profits are going to the V Foundation. So it is the holiday season. Chances are, if you listen to this, you're a fantasy fan, or somebody in your life is as well. We've got hoodwear and drinkware and apparel and tons of fun stuff. Just go to fantasylife.com. Again, 50% of net profits going to the V Foundation. And by the way, you personally can get 10% off by using the promo code GET10NOW. So get the number 10 now, all one word. Get 10 now gets you 10% off at fantasylife.com. And again, 50% of what we make goes to the V Foundation. And the last thing I'll just mention is, you guys know I work with draft.com. It's a DFS site. It's a lot of fun. I take on all comers. If you want to play me head to head, and a lot of people took me up on that. The way you do it is you go to draft.com/Berry, BERRY. You can also download their app. Make sure you download their app. It's free. And basically, it's a DFS, so you have to do it where it's legal. But pretty much every dollar I win goes to the V Foundation. So you have a chance of either winning my money, or if you end up losing to me, it goes to the V Foundation. So appreciate my friends at Draft for allowing me to do that. And so I have to say, you guys should step up your game, because I've raised a lot of money so far for the V Foundation.
How about that?
Rewind. Fantasy
news from the National Football League.
This is the instant replay.
All right, lots to get to, and we'll eventually preview every single game going into this weekend, but let's recap last night's game. The Falcons emerged victorious 20-17. Not the shootout we were perhaps expecting, but the early storyline in this game was that Alvin Kamara, the Saints' unbelievable running back, left after just a handful of plays, Stephania.
That's right. And look, he took a helmet-to-helmet hit, and things worked as they should have. He went to the sideline. Medical personnel took him to the blue tent. Well, actually, they sat with him for a moment. Then he was taken to the blue tent. They do a screen. They then took him to the locker room for a more extensive evaluation. And after he was gone for what felt like 10 or 15 minutes, it appeared he wasn't going to come back, and ultimately declared out for the remainder of the game.
So certainly a massive blow to this offense, and a player that has just been unbelievable. Now, he took to Twitter late last night and sort of suggested he'll be back next week if he emerges from the concussion protocol.
Not totally his call, obviously, but it was a good sign because the fact that he was even engaging on an electronic device is a pretty encouraging thing right after that.
However, obviously a disappointing blow for this offense last night. I mean, I won't say they got stuck in the mud, but certainly has a much different look offensively without Alvin Kamara, Matthew.
Well, certainly, right? I mean, keep in mind, obviously, this game, it's a short week.
Yep.
The game's in Atlanta, so New Orleans is on the road on a short week. And so oftentimes, Field, and you can speak to this as well, on a short week, basically, you're just sort of going to your basics of your offense. And so he was an integral part of the offense. And so all of a sudden, you haven't been able to put in specific plays or specific packages for the Falcons because you have such a short week. If you have something specific, it's not a lot. And so then all of a sudden a key cog of your offense is out for the majority of the game. It certainly affects it. A lot of people going on Twitter basically claiming Field Yates jinxed Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it kind of pissed me off, and I'm sort of still mad this morning.
All right.
It's just heartening to me that. So I tweeted before the game, right at the beginning of the game, like I've got all my Alvin Kamara's incredible tweets drafted for when he does something ridiculous, which is what he does every single week. And by the way,
little tweet, just a fun little,
the number of people that got vulgar and disgusting when someone has an injury to their brain, was discouraging to me last night. And I wasn't going to bring it up. If you want to talk about it, that's fine, but be better.
I do think there was, certainly, and listen,
I know it's a small cross section. I get it.
Yeah.
Be better, people. This is someone's health.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, there were a number of people, whether it was, taking a good-natured jab at you for that tweet, or whether it was just people complaining about Alvin Kamara, like, oh my God, my fantasy season's ruined, you just lost me my playoffs, that kind of stuff. Like, to your point, exactly. Like, a player's health is on the line, and specifically the health of, it's an injury to his brain. And so, certainly a tough play for people that have rostered Alvin Kamara. Having said all that, listen, you're not in the playoffs without him. 77% Field of the teams in ESPN playoffs have Alvin Kamara on their roster.
Incredible,
right? Alvin Kamara on a playoff roster in 77% of leagues. That's what I meant to say.
People that roster Alvin Kamara made the playoffs on 77% of such occasions this year.
Correct.
He has been a big part of it. So we get it. We hope he's back next week. Listen, his health is more important than your 100%. Fantasy team. However, the team is hopeful, the Saints are, to have him back next week when they play the New York Jets. I thought Mark Ingram did not show any major signs of a toe injury last night. No, he looked fine to me.
He looked good, and if they were hesitant about it, they had really no choice but to go to him, and I thought he ran strong, so it sort of put that out of your mind that that's a concern.
Certainly looked fine. He got you 13.2 fantasy points, kind of the floor for Mark Ingram, which tells you just how good he has been this season. Mike Thomas went crazy, perhaps his best game of the year. Yeah. 10 catches, 117 yards, plus a touchdown, and Drew Brees gets you 17 fantasy points. This is kind of a chalk Saints game, right? You've got terrific production from their top wide receiver in Mike Thomas. Drew Brees was very good, but not great. And Mark Ingram, listen, you are not going to lose your matchup this week because of Mark Ingram.
I would agree with all that, especially because it was looking like there was a chance coming into the morning of Thursday, you might not have had Mark Ingram in your roster. So you certainly feel better about that as well. Ted Ginn, when I had discussed this game on the fantasy show yesterday, we'd said, I just said, I don't think you want to start Ted Ginn. He's a risky wide receiver for just 2.7 points for Ted Blank Ginn.
The Falcons were just disappointed last night, though.
Oh my God! And Drew Brees, by the way, should have had 3 touchdown passes. That at the end of the game, that was brutal.
Brutal finish for the Saints, who end up throwing an interception in the end zone, intercepted by Deion Jones, the very good Falcons linebacker. Matt Ryan is the LVP of fantasy football this year, I would say. The NFL's MVP last year. He threw 3 interceptions last night, 221 passing yards. He did throw a touchdown to Mohamed Sanu, but just 6.8 fantasy points for Matt Ryan. If you started them in a league, which I did last night, you are certainly frustrated by how things transpired.
Can I give you a quick impression? I got a quick impression for you.
Quack!
Yeah.
Quack, quack!
Says,
what am I?
Duck?
No. Geico? Huh? The Geico duck?
Quack. Quack, quack.
A goose?
Quack. Quack, what am I?
You're one of Matt Ryan's passes.
There you go. That's right.
Wow. Throwing a duck.
Nice job.
Awful,
threw a couple of
inexplicable decision-making last night.
Ducks. Well done.
Brutal. Listen, there's no way to justify his play last night.
It.
Yeah, it was good. Keith is the smartest one here besides Stephania. 3 interceptions for Matt Ryan last night, and they were dizzying interceptions. One of them went off Austin Hooper's hands, which should have been an easy catch for Hooper. Not on Matt Ryan.
Right.
But he throws one at the end of the first half to Marshawn Lattimore. Then he throws an absolutely abysmal pick in the end zone. Just terrible.
That was the quackiest duck I've ever seen.
Just awful for Matt Ryan. So the reality is, if you survive the playoff weekend this weekend, if you play in a 1-week quarterfinals matchup next weekend, you may not have that much confidence starting Matt Ryan, even in a great matchup against the Buccaneers.
35 different quarterbacks this year have had at least an 18.5 fantasy point game. 35 different quarterbacks have had at least one game with 18.5 fantasy points. Matt Ryan is not one of them. 5 different teams have had multiple quarterbacks with such games. Like the 49ers. The 49ers have had 2 different quarterbacks with a game of at least 18.5 fantasy points. Matt Ryan is not one of them.
So for the Falcons, Mohamed Sanu had a great game last night, 6 for 83 with a touchdown on 8 targets. Very much in the flex consideration week to week to week.
We talked about him on the fantasy show yesterday, and we mentioned he was a top 30 play for us, and that we thought, we talked about how the Saints struggle against slot receivers. So hopefully you're watching the fantasy show. Hopefully you had Sanu in your lineup.
By the way, Devontae Freeman, certainly the primary ball carrier in Atlanta. It's not that close right now.
No, it was nice. I think a lot of people were worried about the division of work between him and Tevin Coleman. Once again, Devontae Freeman establishing this is his job. He gets into the end zone as well.
No targets for either one of them last night. Not a single target for Freeman or Tevin Coleman. Julio Jones, 5 for 98 on 11 targets. I got to tell you, man, some of Julio's errors, not on him. He had a long pass called back because of the tickiest of tic-tac offensive pass
That one,
interference.
I don't understand. I mean,
what's he supposed to do? Whatever. We had that. We
pass interference and touchdowns are the 2 things that no one seems to understand how to call in the NFL. It gets called so inconsistently. What is a touchdown? What is a catch? What is pass interference? You know what, Roger Goodell, after you figure out player safety, can you also figure out, just get something going on with the rules? Some sort of consistently called rules? Now that you're $40 million a year richer or whatever it is?
Great weeks ahead for the NFC South, where a lot remains up for grabs.
Game preview.
All right, time now for our game previews. We begin with a massive one in the NFC. The Minnesota Vikings travel to Carolina to play the Panthers. On the Viking side, you kind of know what you're getting. Case Keenum, Matthew, I made the decision between him and Matt Ryan this week. Pretty clear I'm going to regret it, but just how much am I going to regret it based off your outlook for Case Keenum?
I think you're going to regret it quite a bit.
Thank you.
I mean, listen, last 2 weeks, the Carolina Panthers have not been a good secondary, allowing almost 600 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. In fact, over the last 4 weeks, the Carolina Panthers are 27th against the pass. They're actually top 10 in the NFL in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. And let's face it, Case Keenum has been nothing short of fantastic. He made the love list this week, right? And I think part of the love list is always about expectations, and people, for whatever reason, people will not give any love to Case Keenum.
Yep.
Not even his own coach, who was just like, we're not committing to him the rest of the year. Well, he's the starter this week, blah, 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 blah. At least 16.9 fantasy points, 5 straight games here. I don't know what Case Keenum has to do to continue to earn the starting job with the Vikings and earn a starting position in your lineup.
Yeah, I think that the first part's easy. He's going to remain their starter. The second part, maybe it should just be that we have a really hard time detaching ourselves from large sample sizes or recent trends. And as recent as last year, Case Keenum was benched in favor of Jared Goff, and obviously Matt Ryan was the MVP. So that contributes to your thinking from time to time.
I think other people are worried about this matchup with the Carolina Panthers, and I guess what I'm saying is if you look at what recently, this is a secondary that struggled.
Both Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon certainly very startable this week. I mean, 7 straight games with 15-plus carries for Latavius Murray, and Jerick McKinnon has at least 14 touches in 7 of his last 8 games.
The offensive line is playing terrific, and both are, McKinnon especially involved in the passing game as well. That's one of the reasons why I think Case Keenum has succeeded. In addition to his good play, the offensive line's playing well, and then you think about Diggs and Thielen and Rudolph and those running backs, and it just, there's always an option for Keenum when he's going back to pass.
Stephon Diggs was a player that was regularly inside our top 20 at the beginning of the season. I've got him at 31 this week. He's got 1 touchdown over his last 7 games. Adam Thielen clearly emerged as the best Vikings wide receiver for this season.
I'm a little bit more bullish on him than you are. I'm inside my top 30. I'm as a wide receiver 3, I'm sort of a mid-tier wide receiver 3 this week. I understand the usage has been a little bit all over the place, but he's a big play guy. And again, you think about this Carolina secondary, which has struggled sometimes with big plays. So for me, I think he's a he's a mid-tier wide receiver 3, but you and I agree, obviously, Thielen is a must-start, no-brainer.
Massive questions this week surrounding Carolina, specifically Greg Olsen. Stephania, any debate that he will play on Sunday?
No, I think it's pretty much guaranteed. Walter Payton, Man of the Year nominee for the third consecutive year for the Panthers. I'm really giving a plug for Greg Olsen there. But I think the most important thing is that when he came back from the foot injury initially, we were worried about a controlled outing. Then he goes out, he injures it. So people are wondering, what can you expect? Well, Ron Rivera came out and said that they are not limiting his snaps. So he is very, even Greg Olsen talked about it. He needs to get back. He doesn't want to think about the foot. And I think the plan is for him to play his usual role.
All right, I've got he's 11 in the tight end rankings all the way across the board. In your ranks, my ranks, consensus ranks.
I am at 12. I actually am at 12.
Okay.
Slightly lower here. But again, you think about and it just goes to show you just how terrible the tight end position is, Field.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, I mean, I will tell you, I have Greg Olsen in a league where I have Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and I'm starting Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and maybe I'll regret that.
No, well,
because Seferian-Jenkins has not been great either as well. I have ASJ one spot ahead of Olsen, but you just think about this: the Vikings have not allowed a touchdown to an opposing tight end in 7 straight games.
Right.
They've been a very good defense. They're allowing the second fewest points per game to opposing tight ends. Again, this is over the last 7 games, and then Greg Olsen, maybe he, if there's any sign of danger, you could see them pulling him again. Now, he wasn't expected to, when he played 2 games ago, he was supposed to, play the whole game. Certainly wasn't, but then
they actually said he was going to play a limited role. I get it that his foot acted up.
But they pulled him.
But
they pulled him
different.
earlier.
It's also 2 weeks later, and he had a week off. I think
2 weeks later on grass too. So good signs here for Greg Olsen. Cam Newton,
though, we have yet to see him be productive this year. Cam Newton has struggled so far. Look, it's there. You'll grant me this. It's risky.
It surely
starting Greg
risky.
Olsen, where we have not seen him do anything this entire year, is risky. And Stephania, I remember you talking about this. I remember this is a similar injury that Des Bryant came back from, right?
Totally different. Des Bryant came back much earlier, and I would not equate those exactly.
I'm taking the Vikings.
Same injury.
How about you?
I have the Vikings.
Stephania?
I'm going to take the Panthers.
Okay. Daniel?
I'm taking the Vikings.
Move along to Los Angeles, where the Rams host the Eagles in a massive NFC showdown. And on the Eagles side, the big injury question mark is Zach Ertz, Stephania. Bit of confusion late Thursday night in surrounding his status.
It came from the Eagles, who I believe tweeted out that he had cleared the concussion protocol, and then later they're like, wait, no, roll that back. He actually was cleared to return to practice, has not completed all the steps, still needs to be cleared by the independent neurological consultant, was a limited participant yesterday, so that was his first day back. Assuming that went well, you'd expect him to do more today and then go through those final steps. So they're optimistic, but it's not been decided yet.
Making some progress there on the Zach Ertz front. Obviously, if he plays, you feel comfortable having him in your lineup. If not, Trey Burton will be the in-house option to replace him. For Philly, though, Matthew, it comes down to these running backs. What do you do with Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount? Perhaps I'm a broken record. So the question isn't, do you sit them all? Because that's what you should be doing over these past weeks. Is can you start any of them this week?
I think you potentially could. I mean, I have them in the 30s. You'd have to be pretty desperate. Because I think somebody from the Eagles' backfield emerges. I think in the sense that I think we were here on Monday and we're like, oh, you know who had a good game? So and so did.
One of them's bound.
One
to
of them
well,
is, especially because you think about how you attack the Rams, right? And Los Angeles is 25th against the run over the last 4 weeks. That has been something you've been able to run on the Rams over the course of the year.
Yep.
So my expectation is, again, it's such a good offensive line. They're on the road. The game's in Los Angeles. My guess is that they try to establish the run here, and that I could see one of them getting into the end zone. I couldn't tell you who. It doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. I have LeGarrette Blount ranked the highest of the running backs in Philadelphia because I think he's the most likely to get a score, but it's a couple of spots ahead of Ajayi. And it certainly would not surprise me if Ajayi has the most fantasy points.
Right, I've got Jay Ajayi ranked higher only because I'm banking on the more likely play of him having the 25 or 30-plus yard run versus Blount, who probably has a better shot at red zone work, though. Alshon Jeffrey is,
I have them literally like a couple of spots between each other, right? It is a coin flip.
You've got Alshon a little bit lower than I do, Matthew, but still, we both have him as a starter. He's got 5 straight games with 10 or more points. For the Rams, we're still waiting for Robert Woods to return. So in the meantime, it's Cooper Kupp and Sammy Watkins holding it down in a significant way. This feels blasphemous to me, Matthew, but your little Cooper Kupp makes the hate list for Week 14.
Yeah, I know. It's a bummer for me, too. Make no mistake about it. Because, I love my little Cooper Kupp.
You do.
I do love my little Cooper Kupp. But the fact of the matter is that this is not a particularly good matchup. It's been 5 straight games without a touchdown for Cooper Kupp, right? And my expectation is after Sunday, it's going to be 6. Eagles allowing the 3rd fewest receptions, the 3rd fewest receiving yards, just 2 touchdowns to opposing slot receivers this year. They haven't given up 1 since week 5. And so you think about Cooper Kupp, who over the last 4 games, is facing an Eagles team that they've given up 10 receptions. Like just 10 receptions to opposing slot receivers. Like, Kupp is somebody that has come on a little bit more recently because of the injury to Robert Woods. But the fact of the matter is that all that red zone looks, all the usage in the red zone hasn't translated to big fantasy points. He's been a guy that has banked on sort of volume here. And I don't know that he gets a ton of volume considering how good Philadelphia has been against the slot. So the love-hate list is always about expectations, and I think you should lower them for Cooper Kupp. He is merely I have him as a wide receiver 4 this week.
But Jared Goff could be an intriguing quarterback play, Matthew. I've got him inside my top 10.
Right.
You've got him.
I'm slightly lower than him. I think I have him at 10 or 11. Hang on, I'll tell you exactly where I have him. I have him at 10. I'm at QB 10.
Okay, but we do believe there's a chance that Jared Goff merits streaming consideration this week in your lineup just because there are some really, really bad quarterback matchups this week. We'll talk about a bunch of them later on in the show.
Well, also, you just think about how you can attack the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And I feel like it's easier to pass on them than their defense has been terrific, but it's easier to pass on them than it is to run on them. That run defense is so good. So my expectation is the usage of Gurley comes more in the passing game than it does between the tackles here, this particular one. Yeah, I think Goff, at home against an Eagles team, where I think you can throw on them easier than you can run on them. Goff comes in just inside my top 10.
Despite the fact that Sammy Watkins has a touchdown in 4 of his last 5 games, he is a bit touchdown dependent. That's the reality because of his low volume. Still, he's a top 30 play across the board. In this game, being played in Los Angeles, I will take the Rams.
How about you? The Rams as well.
Stephania?
Sure, I'll take the Rams.
Daniel?
Dang it. I had the Rams slated in here, but since you guys are going to do that and I need to make up some games,
there you go.
I'm going to go Eagles. Carson Wentz.
You know what's great is if you just join me and not worrying about whether you have any chance at winning this at all.
Yeah, that's great, right? Load off your shoulders.
I just pick them whenever I feel like it. Doesn't matter. I had the Saints last night.
Moving along to
Whatevs. By the way, just real quickly off of that game, I think Aguilar struggles as well because the Rams also very good against slot receivers.
Moving along to the future Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions in Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. Massive injury question marks here, Stephania, for both Matthew Stafford and Amir Abdullah.
I think Matthew Stafford is going to play. He's certainly making progress in practice. Yesterday, Thursday, he threw during the session that was open to the media. Sort of mixed reports on the 15 minutes that they were able to watch. That sounds like some of his touch passes were fine, but he sailed a couple. Accuracy potentially an issue, and that was an issue for him when he played with the injured finger last year, and that he threw more picks during the span where he played with that injured finger. So they haven't committed to him starting yet, but they're certainly...
I'll commit to him starting.
I expect that he's going to start. That's not my worry. The worry is if he struggles or the hand, which, by the way, in the conference call that they have with Dirk Cutter in advance of the game, the media has a conference call with the opposing team coaching staff. He said, they were asking about strategy. He said, well, we're going for the hand. And then he made it clear that they were joking. It was tongue in cheek. But if you think that doesn't happen, I mean, it does. And beyond that, just as Stafford's a physical guy, and that's how he got hurt in the first place, got stepped on. So I would have concern that this becomes an issue for him as far as accuracy. And if he becomes ineffective, they'll yank him.
All right, Stephania, how about Amir Abdullah, who missed all of practice in week 13?
Hang on, before you move on there, Field. Stephania Bell, I'm just curious. You're an experienced fantasy football player. If you have Matthew Stafford on your roster, are you starting him this week?
I'm probably looking to see what other options I have.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
I was going to say, we'll get back to that in a second, but Amir Abdullah, Stephania, do we expect him to play?
Limited practice with the neck injury and really not saying much. So I think he's probably going to come in as questionable, and you're going to have a debate on your hands on Sunday.
All right, so Matthew, if Matthew Stafford plays, both of these players, Matthew Stafford, if he plays, you feel comfortable using him, though?
You know, listen, what Stephania just said gives me pause.
Right.
Makes me raise my eyebrows a little bit. Yeah, like that. Not like that. No, wow.
He's
Are
got
you
good
saying
brows.
very
He's got
pronounced
great
eyebrows.
brows.
Field Yates.
Great
eyebrows.
Field Yates has a strong eyebrow game.
Do you have eyebrow envy right now?
A little
You
bit.
should.
Little bit. Listen, be very clear. I have envy of anyone that has hair anywhere on their face.
Very
Let's be
thick
clear.
and full, too.
On just their
eyebrows
head.
are.
What?
Yeah.
It's
He's got full defined brows.
Very full,
he really
thick
does.
eyebrows.
Very thick eyebrows. Very
Well,
thick
the
eyebrows.
Minister eyebrow comes from my mom's side of the family.
Anyway, strong eyebrow game. Strong eyebrow game. By the way, and I'm not the only one that's noticed. There have been.
That's right.
That's right. Remember?
Right. Do you remember?
Remember?
You must remember.
Yeah. We've had a couple of female
We've had
fans.
a couple of thirsty
fans that dig Fields' eyebrows.
Yes. Fantasy
Remember-
football
remember-
now.
I remember
it was
that.
during fantasy football now. Do you
Remember some
We got
girl that was
some
tweeting?
tweets about
Sort of. Now that you're
This is like
saying
3
it, I
years
feel embarrassed
ago.
that I don't remember.
No, this is like 3 years ago or
Right.
something like
And it
that.
was more than once.
There was like
Yeah.
there was like some thirsty girl on Twitter that was just
Talking
like
about Fields' eyebrows.
Talking about Fields' eyebrows.
Matthew's eyebrows?
No, believe me. Believe me.
Fields blushing, but
No,
it's
yeah.
true. I will
yeah.
back Matthew up on this one. That
Yeah,
happened.
exactly. Yeah, no.
When
like,
your eyebrows are getting compliments, you know
yeah.
You're a
good
winner.
stuff.
You're winning at life.
Yeah.
listen, I definitely have some nice demos and groups of fans. Thirsty Chicks is not one of my demos. Make no mistake. They're all about the Field Yates. So, listen, so quickly here about Matthew Stafford. So, yeah, it gives me pause, but I still have him ranked inside my top 6. I think this is such a good matchup against a Tampa Bay team that, frankly, has just been like one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. Last 4 weeks, they're 30th against the pass. And in fact, they allow more deep completions per game than any other team in the NFL. So my expectation is, by the way, they're also one of the worst teams in the NFL in defending the slot. So I think you see a big game from Golden Tate. I think you see a big game from Marvin Jones. Both guys inside my top 15. Both guys made the love list this week. So my expectation is that whether it is Matthew Stafford or Jake Rudock, who I believe is their backup, who would be the guy that would come in, and if something were to happen to Stafford, whoever it is will be able to get the ball to Jones and Tate. Full speed ahead on both those guys. But yeah, I think I'd be hard-pressed to come up with somebody better than Matthew Stafford, even injured, given how good this matchup is.
Stefania, for the Buccaneers, another running back injury. Doug Martin did not play last week because of that concussion. Do we get any sense on his progress this week?
Not so far.
Okay. So that, to me, sounds like you better be ready to potentially make a contingency plan for Doug Martin. If he sits, I would presume that Peyton Barber is the lead back. He was terrific last week, and he would be a flex play for me.
I don't even care if Doug Martin's active or not. I want no part of Doug Martin this week.
Agreed.
I mean, first off, even though Detroit has certainly struggled against the run, they have struggled here. But the fact of the matter is that Doug Martin has been ineffective this entire year. Peyton, if I'm Dirk Cutter, and I'm not, I want to be clear here now. I don't want anyone to accuse me. Yes, I don't want anyone to accuse me of identity theft. I am definitely not Dirk Cutter. But if I were Field Yates, I would be giving the ball to Peyton Barber because to the eye test, he's the best running back on that team at the moment. I mean, what has Doug Martin done this year that makes you? And I don't know whether it's the offensive line or the play calling. I mean, there's lots of factors that go into it. Maybe he's been hiding an injury. We just don't know.
Remember his first game back, he looked really good.
He looked great.
Suspension, yeah,
he looked great, but he hasn't looked that way since.
Okay,
Peyton Barber looked very effective last year. If you disagree with me, by all means.
I don't disagree. It's more of a wow, just like that we've gotten to this point that quickly.
You know what though? I think I misheard what you asked about Doug Martin because I was thinking, has he, thinking in terms of him being cleared, which has not happened, but he's been participating in practice.
Okay, so he's taking some
I
strides.
do think that he's likely to play, but his status for the game has not been advertised.
All
yet.
of what Matthew just said, though, still holds because Matthew just said you don't want any part of him.
I don't want any part of him, whether he plays or not, because my expectation is that he may split carries with Peyton Barber. He may lose carries to Peyton Barber. It just may be a timeshare. He could wind up with it. I will say this. If Doug Martin's officially ruled out, I do think Peyton Barber is a legit flex play against a Lions defense that's 31st against the run over the last 4 weeks. By the way, Nikki J, I won't give her actual Twitter handle, but her name is Nikki J. She tweets on November 13th, 2014, NFL Insider's Field Yates eyebrows on fleek.
So you know you made it, everybody. I will take the Lions in this game.
I will take the Lions. I'm giving the Lions.
It's fine.
Rawr, line up.
I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
Audacious, Stephania. How about you, Daniel?
I've taken the Lions in each of the last, I don't know, however many losses. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow.
You're trying the Matthew Berry school of reverse jinxing. It doesn't work, by the way, but good luck.
The hustle and bustle of the holiday season has a lot of us seeing double. Like the exclusive Double the Flowers deal 1-800-Flowers.com is giving our listeners. 1-800-Flowers has the best deals on gifts she's guaranteed to love, or he. Right now, when you order the Holiday Light Roses bouquet, you'll get double the flowers at no extra cost. That's double the value. Make her gift twice as nice for the same price. I love the rhymes here. The Holiday Light Roses bouquet is the perfect way to give a holiday surprise to the special people on your list. This beautiful bouquet of red roses, carnations, white Asiatic lilies, and more will leave your loved ones stunned without spending a fortune.
How'd you even know what that word is?
I Googled it earlier.
Did you? I looked at that. I had no idea what Asiatic was.
I just sort of Asiago cheese, close enough, right?
Yeah.
These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. The Holiday Light Roses bouquet with double the flowers, completely free, is an amazing offer, but it expires today, Friday. When it comes to meaningful holiday moments, trust in the quality bouquets of 1-800-Flowers.com. To order the Holiday Light Roses bouquet with the double the flowers, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, and enter the code FFF. That's 1-800-Flowers.com, code FFF. Hurry, the offer expires today.
Hey, sports fan, the SiriusXM free listening event may be over, but you can get it all back with packages starting at $6.99 a month. That's right, college sports, the pros, fantasy, 24/7 talk and analysis, and basically the best sports coverage around could be yours once again. And that's just the beginning, because we've got tons and tons of commercial-free music, plus comedy, entertainment, and more waiting for you too. Subscribe now with packages starting at $6.99 a month. Get all the details and subscribe at SiriusXM.com/GetSXM.
Seeing your team win is thrilling. Watching them win in overtime is even better. And the best of all, enjoying some award-winning Larceny wheated bourbon while you cheer them on. Larceny is made with more wheat for a smoother taste. Our master distillers hand-select only the finest barrels for a true small batch bourbon. Get caught in the act. Unlock the smoothness of Larceny bourbon. Larceny Bourbon, Bardstown, Kentucky. 46% alcohol by volume. Think wisely, drink wisely.
It's New York Times bestselling author Matthew Berry with another self-serving, self-indulgent, all-about-me promo.
I would like to tell you guys to listen to Answering the Bell podcast, because yesterday, Stephania put out a podcast with a noted spinal surgeon, correct, Stephania?
Yes.
Robert Thomas, is that his name?
Dr. Robert Watkins.
Robert Watkins, excuse me.
He's actually the orthopedic spine surgeon in L.A. who's operated on athletes all over, but in NFL, J.J. Watt, Rob Gronkowski. Yep. You know, he's kind of one of the go-to guys for athletes with spine injuries.
A lot of conversation, obviously, surrounding spine injuries right now with Ryan Shazier. I would offer this just humbly. We send you the best, Ryan. I know you're not listening to this, but maybe somebody who listens to this podcast is a Steelers fan, is a Ryan Shazier fan, is an Ohio State fan, or just a fan of football, and send some hope his way. We're certainly thinking the best for him right now.
And absolutely excellent surgeons at UPMC, Dr. Okonkwo and Dr. Maroon, who operated on Ryan Shazier, which Dr. Watkins echoed. And please check out the Answering the Bell, because if you were wondering when the statement came out that Shazier had spinal stabilization surgery, we try and explain what that is in the context around it.
There you go. So check out that podcast as well. Is it called Ringing the Bell yet?
Nope.
I will not listen to the podcast. I will merely download it. I will not listen to that podcast until it's changed its name to Ringing the Bell. Hey, but guess what? So I have an exciting announcement to make.
Another one. I love
Another exciting announcement.
We'll decide
so
if it's exciting.
All right. Well, you guys let me know. So Fantasy Life, my little Fantasy Life.
Yeah.
We are entering into a partnership with Amazon. Little up-and-coming company that we think has a bright future.
I've heard
Bristol-based Amazon.
There's going to be a Fantasy Life page on Amazon, part of their Amazon exclusives category as well.
Whoa.
So we'll have some exclusive stuff only for Amazon there, and so that'll be launching very soon. And to celebrate that, I am teaming up with Bose and the Treasure Truck, the Amazon Treasure Truck. I don't know if you guys heard of this, but so I'm going to be in New York City tomorrow, basically from 2 to 4 p.m. At 711 West 28th Street. Basically, we gear up for game day with an amazing offer, epic giveaways. If you want to check out some more information about it, basically how it works is that like you sign up at Amazon.com/treasuretruck and make sure you have the latest version of the Amazon app, and then they send you an alert, and like there's like there's prizes and giveaways and stuff like that, and you go to the truck. I'm going to be there. Antonio Pierce will be there as well.
Awesome.
We're giving
AP.
away AP's great, and so photos and autographs, and we'll get you set for your fantasy lineup. I think they're giving away they're giving away tickets, they're giving away prizes, just a lot of fun. So anyway, to celebrate the launch of Fantasy Life on Amazon, I'm doing this. So the Treasure Truck tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. in New York City at 711 West 28th Street. So come on out, say hi. Hashtag 06010. Come say hi. It'll be fun.
Cool. Congratulations on that endeavor.
New York,
excited
Christmas.
about that. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a good time, and it's always good to see AP. Good
Very
dude.
nice. We roll along to Monday Night Football right here on ESPN. Of course, it's the Patriots traveling to Miami to face the Dolphins without Rob Gronkowski, but Stephania, they might have Chris Hogan, who did return to practice on Thursday.
Right, and he said that it was like being back at the first day of school for him. Very excited. I had to go back and look. It was October 29th when he got hurt. Feels like a lifetime ago. And our Mike Reese pointing out that he played on over 90% of the offensive snaps before he took that big hit to his shoulder. So obviously they've been missing him. It was a big deal for him to get back in the practice field because we've seen neither hide nor hair of him. And I said, if you don't see him back in practice, it's not like it's imminent or close. I think these are baby steps, and as the week progresses, because they have an extra day, they could make the call for him to play, but it's not a lock. Just keep that in mind. Not a lock.
Not a lock, so you probably don't have a ton of other options available for Monday night. So if you're going to hold out hope for Chris Hogan, make sure you're rostering a Danny Amendola, a Kenny Stills perhaps, as somebody as a contingency plan if Hogan does not play. I think the good news, we'll have a bit more information by Sunday at 11:30.
Especially because they travel.
Correct.
And if he travels, I think then there's a really good shot.
sign.
Like I would bet that he comes in listed as questionable because that's what they will do.
Sure.
And that will come out with the Saturday report. And the Saturday reports come out late.
They do.
And so I think the better indication will be, if it looks like he's going to travel.
Yeah, so that'll, and my guess is they'll leave for Miami on either Friday or Saturday, right?
Probably Sunday.
Actually, they'll probably go Sunday. So, but we'll have a good idea by fantasy football now. If we're still up in the air Saturday night.
So be sure to tune into Fantasy Football Now Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2, and check out Stephania's injury blog on Saturday on ESPN.com. She'll have all the latest here. I think if if Chris Hogan is active, Field Yates.
You're playing him.
I'm playing him.
I mean, obviously, if you held
him.
out hope for him anyways, you're going to have to choose between him and another flyer. But yes, I think that if we get clarity that he is more likely to play than not by Sunday morning at 11:30, I would feel comfortable playing Chris Hogan in my lineup.
I think people forget just how good Chris Hogan was before he went down with an injury. And by the way, the usage in the red zone was just ridiculous. Yeah. Almost 60% of the red zone targets that the Patriots have thrown this year have gone to either Rob Gronkowski or Chris Hogan. One of them officially suspended for Monday night. So my expectation is that, with Gronk out, that Chris Hogan would be a big part of the offense just immediately coming back. I think the fact that he's been practicing, that he showed up on the practice field on Wednesday, I thought was a good sign, as opposed to just, coming in on Friday and getting some limited work for the first time. So I think that's a good sign here, Field Yates. By the way, Chris Hogan still available in a little over 20% of ESPN leagues. Worth seeing if somebody somebody dropped him in your league. Worth seeing if he's out there with either hide or hair.
All right, well done there, Matthew. We also have a couple of Patriots running backs that make your love list this week. Both Dion Lewis and Rex Burkhead on the love list for Week 14.
Yeah, why wouldn't they be? I mean, Dion Lewis over the last 3 games has 264 rushing yards. That is most in the NFL. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry, right? And then you think about this matchup with the Miami Dolphins, who allow the second most running back yards per carry. He's had 6 straight games with 14 or more touches. So the usage is there for Dion Lewis. The production has been there. The matchup is there. And then again, by the way, no Rob Gronkowski, so there's more touches to go around, more opportunities for scoring. By the way, Rex Burkhead, last 2 games, 156 total yards, 4 touchdowns. One of those games was against these same Miami Dolphins in sort of a scheduling quirk there. So honestly, the Dolphins are literally the least efficient red zone defense in the NFL. And so Burkhead and Deion Lewis have been nothing short of fantastic. I don't know how both guys are not in your lineup. Both guys are top 15 plays for me this week.
The biggest issue with Deion Lewis is he keeps getting vultured by Rex Burkhead, so good for Burkhead's value. For the Dolphins, Kenyon Drake squarely inside the top 20 for running backs. Heck, inside the top 15 for running backs with Damian Williams still out in this game. Jarvis Landry, you've heard of him. 5+ catches in every game this season. The only player in the NFL that can say that. Kenny Stills, though, sort of the more intriguing play here for the Dolphins. On the radar for flex territory, especially if you play in a PPR league.
At least 8 targets in 5 of his last 7 games. Over the last 4 weeks, he is a top 10 fantasy wide receiver.
Yep.
He's actually wide receiver 9, more fantasy points than Michael Thomas or Jarvis Landry, of course, not including last night's game there with Thomas. And the thing with Kenny Stills is he was like, oh, well, it's a Matt Moore thing, right? You know, that he has this weird connection with Matt Moore, and he was Matt Moore dependent. Had a huge game last week with Jay Cutler under center. My expectation is to keep up with the Patriots, who I think score pretty easily here in Miami. Dolphins are going to have to throw. I think there could be some junk time for Kenny Stills.
By the way, if you're looking for a tight end to replace Gronk in this game,
I have him as a wide receiver 4. He's in my mid-30s there.
If you're looking for a tight end to replace Gronk in this game, Julius Thomas is actually the player I'm thinking of, not a Patriots backup tight end. I will take the Patriots in this game. Matthew, how about you?
I have the Patriots.
Okay, Stephania?
Patriots.
Daniel?
By hide nor hair, I will take the Patriots.
All right, you guys are funny.
No one's ever heard of that phrase.
I don't even think
I've heard of the phrase, but it's just such an old-timey phrase.
Right?
Oh, it's a great phrase.
Thank you, Phil.
It's an old saw.
Old saw? What does that mean?
Old saw is it means phrase. Like when something is an old saw, it's a phrase.
That also sounds incredibly made
Yeah.
up.
Feels like you just use the word phrase.
The Gold Rush would like their phrases back, Phil.
Yeah.
By the way, you might want to. Why do you think the 49ers are called the 49ers?
No, I know that's why they're called the 49ers.
Yeah, maybe you want to get your Gold Rush reference right.
Thirsty Kyle, who's under 30 years old, says, I have no clue what it means. He just sends me a note right now, just so you know.
He's the epitome of a millennial, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Thirsty Kyle.
One of us went to school 6 in the country. The other one went to school, 13 in the country?
Yeah, and one of us relates to America. You know what that is? That's right. One of us is a man of the people.
There we go.
That's what exactly it is.
Let's move along.
Right. I've got you, America. I'm not some highfalutin, hide nor hair person over here. I'm a man of the people. That's right. Somebody's got your back on the 06010. It ain't the guy with the eyebrows on fleek, and it ain't Ivy League over here. It's me. It's your pal, Matty.
Let's move along to Arrowhead Stadium, where the Raiders and the Chiefs square off for their second meeting this season. For Oakland, we know that Michael Crabtree is back. We don't know whether Amari Cooper will be back this week, though, Stephania.
No, and he's still not practicing. And we do know that he cleared the concussion protocol. That was reported earlier in the week, but the ankle issue is still keeping him sidelined. Apparently, reporters spotting him without walking with a limp. They do practice today, Friday, before the team heads to Kansas City. This is another one where you look at if he makes the trip or not. So he has a chance to get out there, but obviously if he's not practicing this morning, he's not going to play.
Week 7, 44 fantasy points. You remember because you had traded him the day before.
Right.
Traded him away the day before. With your eyebrows raised. Do you get your eyebrows? I'm just curious what you do with your eyebrows. Do you do anything with them, or is that just natural? That's all natural?
You don't get them threaded? No?
All natural, baby.
Wow, you look good, dude.
Thank you. Wow. Appreciate it.
Your eyebrows are on fleek. I got to admit that.
Do people still say that?
Yeah, Nikki J does
that
2
was
years ago.
3 years ago.
I will tell you this.
Math is
more
hard,
people say fleek than hide nor hair. I will tell you that right now. Absolutely, 100%.
That is true.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Thirsty Kyle knows fleek. Listen, Thirsty Kyle, you're my bae.
I got you.
Yeah.
We're good.
Exactly.
He's your bae, but anyways.
It's whatever. Listen, I got all the millennial buzzwords, and I'll tell you what they aren't. Hide nor hair.
You know what Kyle and I are? I mean, Kyle. Not Kyle. I disown Kyle. Field and I. We Gucci.
Right. There you go. Yeah. LMFAO. Listen, here's what
podcast ever.
Yeah, right. Right. We should do a segment called "Old People Try Millennials."
We should not do that segment. That would be
old people talk millennial.
We just did that segment.
That's every day of my life when I try to talk to my kids. All right, so listen. Amari Cooper, week 7 against these same Kansas City Chiefs, 44 fantasy points. Field Yates, you had just traded him the day before, so you are painfully aware of this. Since that game, he hasn't had 44 points total.
Right.
And so the usage has been inconsistent coming off of the ankle injury in Arrowhead on the road here. He makes me nervous. I could see it. I think Derek Carr has been, sort of inconsistent here. To me, this feels more like a Michael Crabtree game here. I think it's actually a big Marshawn Lynch game. I think they go into Arrowhead and they try to run the ball. Lynch has certainly come on here. Only Le'Veon Bell has more touches over the last 2 weeks. They've been feeding beast mode.
Yeah, worth noting that in this game, Marcus Peters will not play for the Kansas City Chiefs, so maybe, just maybe, even if they don't have Amari Cooper, Derek Carr in this passing offense can get things going. That being said, I do not view Derek Carr as a solid streamer for this week. I just don't. I've got him at 14 in my rank for quarterback. So I get why you might be enticed by that, but I would look elsewhere, perhaps even to Alex Smith, who after a rough stretch either was relegated to backup duties on your roster or perhaps became available on the waiver wire. But Alex Smith...
correction, by the way. I have Derek Carr at 13, just to clarify. Sorry.
I've got Alex Smith inside my top 5. He checks in the number 3 in the ESPN consensus ranks.
I'm at 3, yep.
He was terrific in that game against Oakland last week, and I don't want to make too much of the coordinator switch last week correlating with his massive game in that loss to the New York Jets, but it certainly didn't seem to hurt Alex Smith as they looked more vertically down the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And whether that was Alex Smith, whether the fact of the matter was the last couple of weeks, he'd played in sort of windy conditions, and maybe the weather was pretty good there. But yeah, they certainly took more shots. They weren't as dink and dunky as they had been in this kind of tough stretch where Smith had struggled.
So he's a starter for us this week, as is Tyreek Hill. But the big question mark, perhaps not just for Kansas City, but maybe the biggest healthy player question mark in fantasy football this week is Kareem Hunt. If you are rostering Kareem Hunt and you're in the playoffs, and there's a pretty good chance you are, Matthew, would you play him this week?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it depends on who you have. I don't think he is a must start. I've said this before, and it kills me because Kareem Hunt's my fantasy ride or die.
Yes,
and I love him. But 8 straight weeks without a touchdown. I mean, it's unfathomable that a healthy player that gets as much usage as he does on an offense that isn't terrible. I mean, even in its worst, it's a middle of the pack offense. Hasn't been able to get into the end zone. It's mind-boggling, and honestly, it's there were 2 teams that of all my teams there were 2 teams that didn't make the playoffs, and they both had Kareem Hunt, and it's because of that stretch.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just absolutely brutal. Lost a couple of tough games there. So I have him at 21 this week. I have Kareem Hunt as kind of like a high end, a very high end flex, or sorry, I take that back. He's at 18 with a refresh. We take the Thursday night game players out. Correct. So he's now at 18 for me. So he's a low end RB2.
Yeah, I've got him outside of my top 20, even with the Thursday night players removed, right near 20. But still, I get it if you don't want to use Kareem Hunt this week. I'm still taking the Chiefs though, because I think the Raiders are bad, straight up.
I would agree with you. Worth noting, though, the Raiders, over the last 4 weeks, they're the second best run defense in the NFL, last 4 weeks. So again, that's why we have Kareem Hunt like a low-end RB2. It sort of depends on what other options you have. I'm probably starting him, but I don't feel great about it, and I will take I'll take the Raiders. You know what? I'm taking the Raiders in this game. The Raiders.
Arrowhead gets the mojo back. Chiefs.
Daniel?
I am taking the Raiders.
There we go. A split for us on that one. We go to L.A. for the other game being played in Los Angeles this weekend. The Redskins at the Chargers, your team, Matthew. We know no Jordan Reed on Sunday afternoon.
6th straight missed game.
Too bad for him. But the question maybe for Vernon Davis rosterers, Matthew, are you comfortable starting?
No,
you're not? Okay, interesting.
Stop it. No. I mean, listen, in addition to the fact that he just has done nothing the last 2 weeks,
right?
Chargers have held opposing tight ends to 7.5 fantasy points or fewer 6 different times this season. That's tied for the second most such games this year. That defense is so good. One of the things that's happened with the offensive line in Washington and all the struggles, they've had to play Niles Paul more. Vernon Davis, not a particularly great blocking tight end. And so just, they haven't been able to get him the ball because of the struggles with the offensive line, and the snaps have gone down. So honestly, you think about Joey Bosa and that Chargers pass rush, I'm worried Kirk Cousins is running for his life in this one.
Well, along those lines, Matthew, would you start Kirk Cousins? Is he inside your top 10? Because for a lot of us at ESPN, he is not. For me, he is. And part of it is, first of all, he's been really good over the past 4 games with 10 total touchdowns and 286 passing yards per game since week 6, which is 3rd most amongst active quarterbacks behind only Matthew Stafford and Russell Wilson. Don't you feel like, for some reason, it feels like he's one of those quarterbacks that also in the matchups where you expect him to do poorly, he does well, and vice versa?
Yeah, I guess so. Although I think about this, I think about the last 2 games, right? He was at the Cowboys, and that's as good a matchup.
Said, yeah.
It was, and 12.6 fantasy points. Now, there were some interceptions there that I don't think are on him. You know, I mean, like, at least, you know, the Jamison Crowder one wasn't. You can argue the last one, it got tipped at the line of scrimmage, whether that's on him or not. But, you know, again, at the end of the day, guy had 12 fantasy points in a cake matchup. And then on Thanksgiving, just 16 fantasy points against the Giants here. And the Chargers are a much better defense than either of those two teams here. That offensive line is just so brutal. You know, it's just been so beat up. I don't want to say it's brutal. Bill Callahan's done an unbelievable job with that team. Listen, I love Kirk Cousins. I think he is worth $30 million a year. The Redskins need to pay this man, but he is my quarterback 11 for the week on the road at the Chargers. I'm just nervous about, frankly, that he's just going to be running for his life the whole time and that they try to go conservative and run the ball here.
For the Chargers, crank them all up. Phillip Rivers makes the love list. Hunter Henry makes the love list. Keenan Allen has been red hot. Those three are must starts, as is Melvin Gordon. Heck, the defense also a worthwhile option as well. For the Chargers, they are playing really well right now, all of a sudden peaking at the right time. For them, 6-6, like the Chiefs and the Raiders.
Chargers are the 7th best pass defense over the last 4 weeks. They're the 4th best scoring defense here. And the Redskins, listen, Kirk Cousins is a competitor, but this team so beat up, and they know they're not going to the playoffs. So I think the Chargers win this game, and I hope the Redskins do the right thing, and I hope they pay Kirk Cousins.
You spoiled it. I will take the Chargers as well. How about you, Stephania?
Chargers.
Daniel?
I will take the Chargers.
All right, move along.
Bolt up.
Bolt up. Charge up. That would work, too. For the Jets and the Broncos.
Yeah, but bolt up is more fun.
Okay. They play in Denver, and all of a sudden there is a massive injury concern for the Jets, Stephania. It's Robby Anderson.
Robby Anderson has a hamstring issue, and you know how we don't like these late week things. I mean, he was on the injury report on Wednesday. I don't know if a lot of people noticed it because he was still listed as a full participant in practice, but aggravated it on Thursday. I mean, there was definitely a setback that happened on Thursday. No bones about it. There's real concern about his status for this weekend.
All right, keep that in mind for Robby Anderson. If he does not play, Matthew, does that change your outlook as Josh McCown as a streamer?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help. Obviously, if Robby Anderson went out, we have to wait and see. I'll do a rankings update later today once we have all the practice reports for Friday. Currently, I have McCown inside my top 10. He's been nothing short of ridiculous. You know, I mean, 35 points, 25 points, you know, and double-digit fantasy points now pretty much in every week except the one game against the Jags in week 1 at Buffalo. So it doesn't count here. I mean, and the Denver Broncos, by the way, Field, they ain't the Denver Broncos anymore, right? They've allowed multiple touchdown passes now in 5 straight games. So you think about McCown, who has 5 different games with 255 passing yards or more, tied for the league lead. Like, yeah, I mean, you keep thinking it's not going to continue, and it keeps doing. Josh McCown is playing really good football. He really is. Yep. And so I think they struggle to run the ball here. It's kind of this three-headed monster here. Even with all the struggles, Broncos still 12th best run defense over the last 4 weeks. So I think they're going to have to throw here. And with Jermaine Kearse, with Robby Anderson, we'll see what happens with his health, and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who I know his production has gone down recently, but this is a nice matchup here against a Broncos defense that's top 5 in the NFL in terms of tight end yards and tight end touchdowns allowed.
Like in a good way, in a favorable way.
In a favorable way. That's what I mean. Because again, you think about it logically, their corners are so good. So when you're a quarterback, where are you attacking? Where do you think there's a matchup you can win? That's against the linebackers. That's with the tight ends.
All right, for the Denver Broncos, again, we're in week 14. I don't want to mess around here. Anybody you feel comfortable starting in this matchup against the Jets?
No.
Yeah. I mean, you've got Emmanuel Sanders at 42, Matthew. You've got, or around there. You got around 40th in your wide receiver rankings.
I mean, I have Demaryius Thompson inside my top 30. So, I mean, I guess he's a wide receiver 3 for me. So if you're in a 10 team or 12 team 3 wide receiver league, then yeah, you're starting Demaryius Thomas. But no confidence whatsoever in the passing game, in the offense at all. I don't know what to do with the running backs because it had been Devontae Booker for 4 straight games, and then you get C.J. Anderson. In fact, C.J. Anderson Field makes my hate list this week.
Yeah, no surprise.
I mean, well, just honestly, look, since week 7, the Jets have allowed just 3.24 yards per carry, just 1 rushing touchdown to opposing running backs, and the fewest fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. Even if C.J. Anderson gets the majority of the work, you know Booker and Charles will be involved here. It's just a 3-headed monster. I can't imagine starting any Bronco with confidence in this game.
Give me the Jets in this game.
JTS, Jets.
I can't believe it. Jets on the road in Denver.
Yeah, They're on fleek.
I am also going to take the Jets.
Stephania, was that a Jets call from you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we move along to the Packers and the Browns. The Browns have a new general manager, and hopefully
by hair or by hide?
Hopefully
by hide or by hair? What's the phrase?
Neither hide nor hair. Field
neither
knows
hide
it.
nor hair. Got it.
Browns and Packers, they hope for their first win of the season. Do the Browns for the Packers. Let's start with this. Jamal Williams obviously has been red hot over the past 4 games, Matthew. Are you convinced he has this job unto himself with Aaron Jones presumably quite a bit more healthy this week?
I am. So talking to a source, the belief is that Jamal Williams is the most complete back on the team, that they view Aaron Jones as more of a change of pace guy. They like him, but their thumper is going to be Jamal Williams. And after the performance he had last week, I don't know how you take him out of the game. You know what I mean? Like, you know this, there's recency bias not only in fantasy, but in NFL teams as well, right? In terms of a locker room. And, you hate to see guys, quote, lose their job because of injury. But the fact of the matter is that if you're Mike McCarthy and you're trying to get a win on the road and Jamal Williams has just done what he's done, how are you going to all of a sudden say, like, never mind, Jamal, you sit down?
You're not. That's the answer. The answer is you're not going to do that. So Jamal Williams, to me, inside the top 15, I am highest amongst all ESPN rankers this week. 80 carries over the past 4 weeks for him.
Both you and I think he is a must start.
Agreed. And Devontae Adams is the only other thing that's pretty much a must start for the Packers. I've got him at 21 in my wide receiver rankings. Mike does note that it's a tough matchup for Devontae, but again, he has been the only Packers wide receiver that has kept things going since Brett Hundley took over for Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
For the Browns, all of a sudden we've got some fantasy relevant players this week.
Yeah,
Josh
we
Gordon
do.
inside our top 20 this week. We liked what we saw from him last week. We were pleasantly surprised from his performance against the LA Chargers. The matchup certainly a much better one this week against the Packers.
Top 10 in the NFL the Packers are top 10 in the NFL in terms of completion percentage allowed on deep passes and deep touchdowns.
Yep.
They've allowed 5 deep touchdowns over the last 4 weeks. You think about the volume that Josh Gordon has got. I think Josh Gordon is actually a must start, which I can't believe in the first week of the playoffs. I'm saying a guy who's got 1 game in the last 3 years is a must start, but he's a must start.
He sure is. He is inside of our top 20 for wide receiver
He's on
ranks
fleek
this week. He is on fleek.
He's my bay. He's my fantasy bay.
All right, good enough. I think that was whatever. I'll let you have it.
You know what? He's fleek AF. How about that?
You also think Deshaun Kaiser could do some work here, Matthew, against the Packers because of the value he adds with his legs in this game.
Yeah, look at the numbers that Deshaun Kaiser has been putting up recently. I have him as a QB2 option. Absolutely. I mean, just very quickly here on Deshaun Kaiser. I mean, averaging over 7 points per game with his legs over the last couple of games. I mean, look, double-digit fantasy points at the Chargers last week, 20 points against the Cincinnati Bengals, 23 at Detroit, 15 against Minnesota. The one bad game he's had in the last 5 was against the Jags. That's understandable. Against the Packers, yeah, I think Deshaun Kaiser's a top 20 fantasy quarterback this week. His skills are lit.
He's making a hard charge to try to win you that board bet. I will take the Packers in Cleveland for this game. How about you?
Pack up!
Packers.
There's a serial bet behind the glass on this, straight up, because Keith is a massive Browns fan. Kyle is a loyal Packers fan. The winner of this bet gets a box of cereal.
That's the dumbest bet I've ever heard.
Dude, relax. Let them have their moment here. Cowboys and Giants.
They can have a moment, but have a real bet. One of them should have to shave their eyebrows. That's a bet.
That's not for this.
No, not for this. What do you know from bets? You don't know anything about betting. You're not allowed to rule on betting.
I know how to make them.
No, you don't. You don't know how to make them. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to talk by neither hide nor hair. Are you allowed to talk about betting on this show?
Cowboys at Giants. This game in the NFC East may not amount to much in terms of playoff implications, but it's always fun when these two teams square off. For the Cowboys, we still know we are 2 weeks away from Ezekiel Elliott playing, but Dak Prescott has been bad of late, Matthew, and yet he still finds a way to make your love list for this week.
Honestly, this is partially about matchup. You think about the Giants, who allowed the 4th most quarterback points this season, right? Since week 4. 286 passing yards per game. That's what they're giving up. That's most in the NFL, even recently. They're tied for 28th against the pass. This is a defense that they've given up on the season. They know that they've struggled. They're not a good defense. The season's going nowhere. They lost Janoris Jenkins for the season, honestly. And I thought Dak Prescott seemed to get some signs of life against the Redskins. He's now had 10 games to prepare for an important divisional game. Yeah, I think Dak Prescott has a really nice game here against a Giants team, assuming everything is okay with the hand, Stephania.
Well, he came back in and finished the game, so I think that told you all you needed to know. He's still listed on the injury report, but full practice, he should be fine.
Exactly. Along those lines of the vulnerable Giants defense, Alfred Morris also cracks our top 20 for running back ranks this week. He just went all the way over around through the Redskins a week ago, finishing as RB10, clearly established himself as that lead back.
Last 5 games, the Giants have allowed 6 different running backs to have double-digit fantasy points here. The workload with Morris is, I think, pretty solid. My expectation is at least 15 touches for Morris here in a good matchup. Yeah, solid RB2, even in PPR.
For the Giants, Eli Manning returns as the starter. Stephania, do you anticipate he'll have Sterling Shepard by his side?
Sterling Shepard says he expects to play. If you've been following the injury report, he was out the first Wednesday with a hamstring injury. He was back yesterday in limited practice, but said he ran hard and felt good. So if there's no setbacks today, I think you will see Sterling Shepard.
Cowboys allow the 3rd most receptions, 5th most receiving yards to slot wide receivers this year, where Shepard lines up most of the time here. I expect Shepard to have a really nice game here. He is a low-end wide receiver 2 for me this week. By the way, you're obviously starting Evan Ingram, but I just wanted to mention real quickly, Jason Witten always kills the Giants. Just in general, and this year, obviously, they've really struggled against the tight end. I have Witten inside my top 10.
Very tempted to take the Giants this week because I think there's a lot of emotion on their side with Eli Manning returning as the starter, but I'll take the Cowboys.
Cowboy up!
Cowboys.
Moving along to the Ravens and the Steelers, a Sunday night game. These two teams have very little love for each other. A lot of respect, but not very much love. Alex Collins, though, Stephania.
They're the anti-Matthew and Field.
That's right. Not best friend. Not a lot of love between the Ravens and the Steelers. Alex Collins had previously been on the injury report, Stephania, but it sounds like he's getting he's moved along past that.
They are not listing him anymore.
All right, that's good news for the for
and
Collins.
In a game that should be, AFC North, as Boomer always likes to, AFC Norris, and always like to, this is a thumper game, right? This is a hat check game, and so my expectation in kind of a low scoring physical game, you could see a lot of Alex Collins on Sunday night. I think he's a viable flex.
And I don't think that Danny Wood has really proved that he has to be in your lineup since his return from his injury. He has been fairly pedestrian in terms of his production, and Buck Allen has still played more than I expected him to for the Ravens. Mike Wallace, though, could there be a revenge game in store for him, Matthew?
Yeah, hashtag revenge game. Honestly, I kind of like Mike Wallace here. So, listen, I have him as a low end wide receiver 3, high end wide receiver 4. You think about what he did to his former team in week 4. 55 yards and a touchdown. He was a top 10 wide receiver that week. Had 10 targets. Steelers have really struggled with the deep ball, right? 8th most deep passing yards allowed so far this season. They've given up 7 deep passing touchdowns, obviously. Wallace is the deep threat here for Joe Flacco and the Ravens. 4 straight games now with 5 or more catches and a touchdown. Doubled at least 9 fantasy points in 4 straight games. So, yeah, I think Mike Wallace here continues to sort of, get some, I think it's a nice matchup for him. And Jeremy Maclin, by the way, not 100% healthy either.
That certainly doesn't hurt Mike Wallace's chances to get even more work. For the Steelers, Antonio Brown got a rest day on Wednesday. No major concern there. We know, as we saw on Monday night, no major concern for him, period. He has just been that good. No Juju Smith-Schuster for this team on Sunday night because of the 1-game suspension, which could lead to Martavis Bryant being on the flex radar. He is inside my top 40, kind of a flex play in deeper leagues. Ben Roethlisberger, though, has been unbelievable over the past 3 weeks. He's been really good, one of the best quarterbacks in football, but yet I still can't bring myself to starting him this week, Matthew.
Yeah, the matchup certainly has improved for Ben with the fact that Jimmy Smith not going to be playing for the Ravens secondary, but again, kind of a low-scoring game here. The Ravens, this is just one of those divisional games where I feel like it's a...
Whoever wins grinds it out like 16-13.
I was just going to say 17-13, 20-17. This just feels doesn't feel like a high-scoring game to me. So Roethlisberger, just a mid-tier QB2, especially considering the fact he won't have Juju Smith-Schuster.
I take the Steelers in this game at home. How about you?
I have the... Steel up.
Steelers.
This is just AFC North football. I'm going to take the Steelers.
All right, we go to Jacksonville, perhaps the game of the week, at least in my estimation, is Seattle traveling across the country to Jacksonville. On the injury front, Nothing on the Seattle side of note. Marquise Lee still banged up, Stefania. But he keeps playing. He keeps powering through.
Yeah, he keeps playing, and he's been productive virtually every week. So I think you know the pattern by now if you have Marquise Lee on your roster and you're not worried about his status.
How about this?
And by the way, in the Seahawks are 23rd against the pass over the last 4 weeks here. They've allowed 31 wide receiver fantasy points in 4 straight games. That's the second longest active streak in the NFL. I don't know that you can be scared of the Seahawks secondary the way you used to be based on just all the injuries they've had.
Massive question mark in this game is this. Russell Wilson, if you roster him, are you starting him this week, Matthew?
Obviously, depends on what other options you have, but I think so. Look, I get it. It's on the road. It's at Jacksonville. That defense is so good. He's been so good, though. I just don't know how you take him out of your lineup.
I just don't know how you do it as well. That being said, Jacksonville has not allowed a quarterback to finish higher than 14th so far this year. They're allowing 8.51 points per game to opposing quarterbacks, the best since the 2009 New York Jets. Listen, if I have a great other option, I get benching Russell Wilson, but it's really hard to do so.
I have him at 5.
Yeah.
I mean, like others people, you have him slightly lower. You have him at 9. We all have him as a starter in top 10. It just depends on where you put him. I certainly can understand why. Let's see. Oh, Mike Clay has him at 12.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it with the matchup. It's just he's been so good.
Mike Davis on the flex radar for the Seahawks in the running game. For the Jaguars, obviously, it's Marquise Lee, it's Leonard Fournette in that defense, which is the 4th most popular player on fantasy rosters.
You're obviously starting Leonard Fournette, but I got to be honest, I'm a little nervous about him. In DFS, maybe I'm looking elsewhere here. Hasn't seemed to be 100% right since that ankle injury, since he came back from that ankle injury, right? He just...
Agreed there. I will take the Seahawks in this game.
This is a tough match.
On the road,
Seattle.
take the Seahawks. How about you?
Give me the Jags.
Stefania?
I'm going to go with Seattle.
Daniel?
Jag up!
Obviously, if you have to choose between Blake Bortles and Russell Wilson, you're taking the Jaguars.
I knew you were going to say that. Well done, Daniel. Tennessee goes to Arizona. Massive game for the Titans.
Third best quarterback in fantasy last week, Blake Bortles.
To keep pace with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we begin, Stefania, with Arizona because there's some injury concerns for Adrian Peterson.
Right. Obviously, he missed the game last week. Still not practicing. This is his 5th straight missed practice. Essentially not cleared to return to practice. Bruce Arians has been deferring to the medical staff, saying once that happens, then I'll talk about it. But look, if he's not doing anything by today, just the fact he hasn't done anything to this point makes you think that the chances are pretty slim.
Getting closer to the point where you'd expect to see Kerwin Williams as a starter, Matthew. If Kerwin Williams does start, how high up your ranking does he climb?
Not much. I don't love this.
Is he a flex play? Is he?
No, I mean, let's see. I have him. I'll tell you exactly because I did not rank Adrian Peterson. I ranked Kerwin Williams, but I didn't rank him particularly high. I understand the volume will be there. I have Kerwin Williams at 31. So I'm as a running back 4. As a low-end flex at best. There's no team in the NFL that's been better against the run over the last 4 weeks than the Tennessee Titans. I mean, they've been nothing short of terrific. They haven't allowed more than 77 rushing yards to a running back this entire season, right? And the person who got 77 yards was J.J. in week 5. And it took him 25 carries to get there. So, how much volume do you expect Kerwin Williams to get in relief of Adrian Peterson? How effective do you think it is? Does he get into the end zone? My expectation, that's what you're hoping for with Kerwin Williams.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But other than Larry Fitzgerald, then there's not a single Cardinals player you trust implicitly starting in your lineup.
Trust implicitly, no. But I will say Tennessee over the last 3 weeks has allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. If you're stuck at the position... Ricky Seals-Jones I have inside my top 15. I think he is a tight end 2 with some upside.
Rashard Matthews, Stefania, seems to be trending towards playing this game.
I was just going to say, every time you say his name, I think of like Chucky's in Love. You know Ricky Lee Jones. You remember
Ricky Lee Jones, sure.
Yeah, I hear Ricky Seals-Jones, and I think of Chucky's in Love. Come on, Daniel, you know music.
Ricky, don't lose that number.
No.
Come on, Steely Dan.
Wrong artist. You're the worst. Okay, never mind.
Rashard Matthews seems likely to play this weekend, Stefania.
He has already said that he thinks he has a good chance to play. Upgraded to full practice yesterday, so if no setbacks, yes, hopefully he's back.
Certainly he is a Titans wide receiver you are more interested in than Corey Davis or Eric Decker, who have been sort of average in his absence. Marcus Mariota makes the hate list, as does DeMarco Murray this week, Matthew. The numbers bear it out. He just hasn't been that good recently.
I love Marcus Mariota. JK.
No, it's DeMarco Murray. But that works too, yeah. Both those players.
Right, JK.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's a reason why DeMarco Murray makes the hate list, right? Once, in the last 5 games, the Cardinals have allowed a running back to score on the ground. They're averaging just 3.35 yards per carry over that stretch. And that includes games against Todd Gurley, Lamar Miller, Carlos Hyde, Leonard Fournette. Like, they haven't been dominating bad running backs. They've been dominating really good running backs. Yes, DeMarco Murray can always get into the end zone. That's always an opportunity here. But from the eye test, Derrick Henry's the best running back on that team. They trust Murray more in pass pro. But honestly, like, Derrick Henry's the better running back. So you've got a guy who's in a time split. I think there's only one game this year where DeMarco Murray's had more than 15 touches. Yeah. So it's really just you're hoping for a touchdown with DeMarco Murray. That's literally the only thing you can hang your hat on here with DeMarco Murray. So, I don't know.
Give me the Cardinals in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to take I'm taking the Cardinals as well. Look, I said this on Twitter the other day. The Titans are the worst 8-4 team, potentially the worst 8-4 team in history.
Stefania, who are you taking?
And you guys know, I love my Titans. Tighten up.
I'm taking the Titans and Delaney Walker.
Daniel?
I am taking the Titans and Derrick Henry.
Here we go.
I will say very quickly, I can't tell you how many Titans fans reached out to me with supportive and nice notes just saying, you're absolutely right. We're overrated. Mariota's been brutal. Thank you very much. I have nothing but love for the Titans, but you got to call them like you see them.
For the 49ers.
I feel you, Titan fans. I got you. You my bae.
For the 49ers and Texans, the big injury here that we're monitoring is whether or not Will Fuller could return for Houston, Stefania.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. Yesterday was his first full practice since he injured his ribs, so I think the plan is for him to play on Sunday as long as nothing crops up between now and then.
There you go. Not just because he's handsome, but Mike Clay actually has Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback 12 this week. Yeah, Mike Clay has Mike Clay. Yeah, has Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback 12 this week, noting that Houston has allowed the second most QB points this season. Some context there. I'm not quite as optimistic yet, but I certainly was encouraged by last week's signs. The player that I'm still most interested in is Carlos Hyde.
Well, what's so weird for me is very quickly on Garoppolo here is that he may finish the week as the 12th best quarterback in fantasy. I understand the ranking in that sense that the matchup is that good and he looked good. Yeah. But it's also it's sort of like when I do my rankings, it's just like about risk factor. Like in the first week of the playoffs, are you starting a guy who's made one start for his team?
Right.
Yes.
Understood.
On a team like the 49ers, which is devoid of talent.
Right.
Not
Understood.
true.
Yeah.
By Hyde or hair.
By Carlos Hyde, you've got him inside the top 10. That worked out well right there as well, obviously.
Yes.
Worth noting, Marquise Goodwin had 8 catches on 8 targets last week. He's inside our top 40. A flex flyer play. Perhaps if you're looking for some big play upside, he is a player to consider.
Texans have played some better defense recently, too, by the way. They're the 9th best against the pass over the last 4 weeks.
But start TJ Yates, and things will look a lot better for Houston going forward. Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins, you are studs. Steven Anderson.
I just don't know. Oh, go ahead. So what were you going to say?
Steven Anderson, a name to keep on the radar if you're looking for a Gronk replacement for this week. Another one of those high upside but massive risk play.
100% correct, but certainly a tight end too with some upside here. No Bruce Ellington in the game. He's been he's out for the game as well. So yes. I think you'll see a lot of Andre Ellington and Steven Anderson in the passing game. Both guys lined up in the slot. Both guys got 5 targets out of the slot last week again because of the injuries they've had. Now Will Fuller might be back there, so maybe that limits it some. I can't imagine starting Will Fuller until you see it on the field. He just hasn't been productive with Tom Savage under center.
Stefania, I'm taking the 49ers.
I love it. Well, you know who I'm taking.
Matthew, who are you taking?
Texan up.
Sort of works.
That's mean.
I think the Texans find some gold in the sluice box.
Hey, now.
So does that mean you're taking the Texans?
That means I'm taking the Texans.
All right, move along to the Colts and the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, a lot of injuries of note here. So, on the Bills side, Stefania, we've got Tyrod Taylor and Kelvin Benjamin. What's the latest on both of their statuses?
So Tyrod Taylor did not practice on Wednesday, did do limited work on Thursday. He was held to individual drills, wearing a protective sleeve on that knee where he has a patellar tendon contusion. Essentially, they haven't seen him move around enough to feel comfortable with him starting yet. So he's got one more day to show whether he can really be effective and be on the field. And we'll probably have a better idea after Friday practice. But it's literally very up in the air as far as his status.
One of the tricky parts here is even if he does play, he's clearly not 100%. And part of his value is his mobility. So let's say it's 70% mobility of Tyrod Taylor limits his value, lowers his ceiling.
You're not starting Tyrod Taylor this week, even in a great matchup against the Colts.
I have him in a few leagues, and I'm benching him for that reason, even if he plays.
How about Kelvin Benjamin? You think he'll play on Sunday, Stefania?
I think there's actually a chance that he does play, coming back from the meniscal tear, and I think people wondered why would he even come back this season, and they were going to try and go through the rehab process, but he's been a full participant in practice yesterday, and he said he feels good. So if there's, again, for him, if there's no real setback between now and the weekend, I do think you see him. Be hard for me to completely trust him playoff week, especially because of the quarterback situation. Then you compound it with the fact that we know he's got something with his knee, and it could potentially act up. So I'd probably stay away.
Definitely get him inside my probably like a wide receiver 5, low end wide receiver 4.
Can't imagine starting him in a season long, but if you want a cheap DFS tournament option, Zay Jones has 7 or more targets in 4 straight games. Like in that secondary, the Colts so beat up field. They just got no one back there anymore.
We tip our caps to Frank Gore. Buffalo's allowed the most running back points this season, and just so much respect for what Gore has done throughout the year. He's inside your top 20, Matthew. A little bit lower for me, but still in a great matchup. Certainly a player to consider for your flex option.
He's been getting more and more work. As the season goes on, we thought it would be Marlon Mack here, and you can't get a better matchup than the Bills, who've allowed multiple running back rushing touchdowns in 4 of their last 5 games. The only game, of course, was the Kareem Hunt game. Of course.
I'll take the Bills in this game. This game is being played in Buffalo.
Yeah, Bill up.
Yeah, I really wish I knew who was starting at quarterback, but I think.
Are we allowed to, like, if Peterman starts?
No,
you're not.
No.
Make a decision.
Fine, you know what? Give me the Colts. Screw it. Fine. Colt up. I'm switching time. I'm switching teams. Colt up.
I'm going to take the Colts, actually, too. I can't believe it.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous about Nathan Peterman, TBH.
Gosh.
If they, so Daniel and I have Buffalo. They've got the Colts. If the Bills win, we get wings from Jay Timothy's.
Yep, that sounds like a plan.
If the Colts win, you guys get cocktail sauce, which is what Indianapolis, St. Elmo's cocktail sauce.
Yep. Is that fair?
I don't know what I
put it on the
board.
There it is.
You guys just bet?
No. We made a bet for you guys.
We made a bet for you guys.
Yeah.
For who? For me and
you
for
and I
Stefania?
lost again.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, I know.
You guys,
Why does every bet end in me buying stuff for Daniel and Field?
Yeah, it's okay.
Because we're very smart. Last game here is the Bears at Cincinnati facing the Bengals. We know in this game there's a major question mark for the Bengals in their backfield. Stefania, do you think Joe Mixon has a shot of playing on Sunday?
I don't know. He hasn't done anything yet to suggest that he will.
Yeah. So it sounds like a serious concussion.
Come on, don't make light of these things. Joe Mixon.
I'm not making light of him. I'm making light of Stefania. Come on now. You know that.
Joe Mixon seems unlikely to play on Sunday at this point, which would mean that Giovanni Bernard would hop into RB2 territory. He played really well last week, 15 touches for 96 yards.
The volume would absolutely be there. It's not a matchup that scares you against a Bears team that's 26th against the run over the last 4 weeks. I have Bernard inside my top 20.
And for the Bears, it's really Jordan Howard every week that you care about most on your fantasy roster. He's inside my top 15. He's a little bit lower for you, Matthew, perhaps because these last 2 games he has been bad.
He's been awful. And, I sort of think Cincinnati shows up here. This game's in Cincinnati as well. Wouldn't surprise me. The volume will certainly be there for Jordan Howard, but he's been bad the last 2 weeks in matchups that he should have been a lot better in. So
you're looking for dart throws. If you're looking for daily plays, Dontrell Inman, a name to consider for the Bears. He's got 10 points in 3 of his 4 games with the Bears this season. Other than that, A.J. Green, you demand we continue to start you. I will take Cincinnati in this game. How about you, Matthew?
Yeah, give me the Bengals.
Stefania?
Bengals.
Bengal up.
I'm going to take the Bengals.
There we have it. All of our games have been picked. All of our games have been previews. A reminder, this is the final day of V Week here at ESPN. A lot of ways to donate, contribute, runfieldrun.com, Fantasy Life app, Draft with Matthew, or simply go to v.org/donate. In the meantime, we've got Fantasy Football Now on Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. We've got Stefania's injury blog, which will be out on Saturday. It's must read. We've got the fantasy show, which is on today at 5 p.m. on ESPN2.
At 5 p.m., yep. And always available on demand on the Watch ESPN app or on the ESPN app. You can just go to the on-demand section there. And my love hate column is up. That's right.
I'll be joining NFL Live at 2 p.m.
There you have it.
Ryan Shazier.
2 p.m. NFL Live. Look for Stefania and download the Answering the Bell podcast.
And to say farewell to Herm. Coach Herm.
Oh, nice.
Best of luck to him.
Best of luck to Coach Herm.
Best of luck to Coach Herm Edwards, the new coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils. Easy enough for me to say. In the meantime, Stefania, B87 on Instagram and Stefania_ESPN on Twitter. Matthew Berry, TMR, everywhere on social media except Fantasy Life app, where he's just Matthew Berry.
Yep.
I'm Field Yates. Talk to you guys Monday. Good luck at the playoffs.
Peace out.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Yeah, you do.
The theme song of the Fantasy Focus was created and performed by Eric Hutchinson. Check out more of his music at erichutchinson.com. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast. For more great podcasts, listen on the ESPN app or subscribe on iTunes.
You can always count on Bud Light, just like you can always count on Always Game Gary. No bar is too far. No wing sauce is too hot. Not for Gary. Always Game Gary is famous among friends. He deserves a Bud Light. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, AB St. Louis, Missouri.